considering the negligence of ordinary householders like us, that very same Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in our homes just to support his devotees. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devotees are so affectionate toward the Personality of Godhead that although he does not appear before those who practice yoga in a secluded place, even for many, many births, he agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotional service without material yoga practice. In other words, devotional service to the Lord is so easy that even a householder can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one of the members of his household, as his son, as Kardama Muni experienced. He was a householder, although a yogi, but he had the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Muni, as his son. Devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. The Lord says, therefore, that he lives neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of the yogis, but he lives where his pure devotees are always chanting and glorifying him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhakta Vatsala. He is never described as Jnani Vatsala or Yoga Vatsala. He is always described as Bhakta Vatsala because he is more inclined toward his devotees than toward other transcendentalists. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that only a devotee can understand him as he is. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. One can understand me only by devotional service, not otherwise. That understanding alone is real because although Jnanis, mental speculators, can realize only the effulgence or the bodily luster of the Supreme Personality Godhead, and yogis can realize only the partial representation of the Supreme Personality Godhead. A bhakta not only realizes him, meaning God, as he is, but also associates with Personality Godhead face to face. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so this verse, let me read it again. Not considering the negligence of ordinary householders like us. That very same Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in our homes just to support his devotees. Well, yes, it's a fact. Krishna can appear anywhere, and he can appear in the homes of grihastas to bless them. So when it says appears, in our homes just to support his devotees, so you can install a deity of Krishna in your home. You can have a picture of deity of Krishna in your home. You can have lectures of Krishna in your home. In many different ways, Krishna can appear in a home. And if we engage in chanting Hare Krishna and offering food before we eat, offering food to Krishna before we try and eat it, and say the right prayers, and do other things that are pleasing to Krishna, then he appears even in the home of a grihasta. And that's why Prabhupada says, he, meaning Krishna, appears and agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotional service without material yoga practice. Mm. The yoga practice has become very popular in modern times. People, they get their yoga mats and they do their silent yoga. And usually it's breathing exercises and some physical exercises and some quiet meditation. Do they chant Hare Krishna also? Sometimes they do chant Hare Krishna. But most of the times it's the quiet meditation. That's the most popular type of so-called meditation. Uh, However, here it says that Krishna does not appear before those who practice yoga in a secluded place, even for many, many births. He agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotional service without material yoga practice. In other words, devotional service to the Lord is so easy that even a householder can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one of the members of his household, as his son, as Kardama Muni experienced. He was a householder, although a yogi, but he had the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Muni, as his son. Now, this should give a lot of hope to devotees. And that's why it says devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. The Lord says, therefore, that he lives neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of a devotee, but he lives where his pure devotees are always chanting and glorifying him. Okay, so now that's a secret, open secret statement. What's an open secret? Well, it's actually printed in the Shastra, so anyone can read it and understand it. Hidden secret would be something that is not publicly stated, only stated privately. So Krishna is openly stating, how you can see him. But most people are not interested in hearing about Krishna, so they just ignore it. So it remains a mystery to them. And that's why it says here today, devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. The Lord says, therefore, that he lives neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of a yogi, but he lives where his pure devotees are always chanting and glorifying him. Well, that's what we do. You can do it in the home, you can do it in the temple, always chanting and glorifying the Lord. So it's not difficult to see God. It's not difficult to associate with God. You do it by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and uh, hearing lectures from bona fide devotees and uh, reading also. So, in these different ways, one can associate directly with Krishna, whether you realize it or not. One is in direct association with the Lord by hearing about the Lord, by chanting the glories of the Lord, and also engaging in the devotional service of the Lord and making sacrifices to please the Lord, such as fasting on special days of the year. And so, in different ways, we are associating with Krishna. There's not only one way, there are many different ways by which we can associate with Krishna. So here it says again, devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. Well, not everybody understands this. They understand, of course, doing yoga exercises, but it's not to please Krishna, it's to improve their health and to get rid of stress and so many other purposes. But is it to love God, to love Krishna? Not necessarily. And sometimes they'll openly say this type of yoga that we're doing is not spiritual. That's to attract more people to pay money to do some exercises in the morning or the afternoon. So you have so many yoga schools, and they openly say this is not spiritual yoga, this is practical yoga. And they basically, eliminate and he's talking about Krishna. This is to their detriment, not to their benefit. So that there, so Prabhupada agrees. He says that Krishna agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotional service without material yoga practice. Well, there it is. Material yoga practice is the practice of yoga simply for health, simply for making your body stronger, uh, for getting rid of stress. By the way, can you look up and see what advertisements of yoga say? Yoga schools, you know. Uh, just look up a regular yoga school and how do they advertise their yoga? The devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. Okay, there it is. That should be our motto for the rest of our life. That devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. You want to get the
Yeah, okay. You do.
what does it say about
Yeah, I'm just
yoga school advertisement? So the Lord says himself in verse that he lives neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of a yogi, but he lives where his pure devotees are always chanting and glorifying him. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhaktavatsala. Bhaktavatsala means that he is never described as Jnani Vatsala or Yoga Vatsala. He's always described as Bhaktavatsala because he is more inclined toward his devotees than toward other transcendentalists. Yeah. So Bhaktavatsala means someone who is serving and loving Krishna. So he's more inclined toward his devotees than toward other transcendentalists. Bhaktavatsala means he's very inclined to serve his devotees.
I found one
One
sample
advertisement, yeah,
given by ChatGPT.
yeah,
So this is explore the power of Vinyasa flow.
vinyasa.
Yeah, we specialize in Vinyasa flow, a dynamic form of yoga.
Vinyasa what?
Vinyasa flow.
Flow.
Yeah.
FLOW or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
A dynamic form of yoga that synchronizes breath with movement.
Okay.
Our Vinyasa classes offer a unique balance between physical strength, flexibility, and mindful awareness. What is Vinyasa flow? Vinyasa flow is a fluid moving meditation that links one pose to the next, creating a seamless flow of movement. Each session is designed to build strength and endurance with challenging postures, enhance flexibility through deep stretching and balanced poses, promote mindfulness and breath control with pranayama techniques.
It has nothing to do with spirituality. It's all about the body. Anything else? Or that's it?
Benefits of Vinyasa flow: increase cardiovascular fitness and stamina, develop a strong core and body alignment, cultivates mental clarity and reduces stress through mindful breathing, creates a meditative rhythm that calms the mind.
All about the body. Doesn't say anything about the soul. That's what's going on today. They're just teaching how to stretch yourself and how to calm your stress. And it's nothing about love of God. In fact, they don't even mention God. And sometimes they outright say this is not a spiritual type of yoga. It's only material yoga, stretching, breathing, and so forth. There we are. And that has, by the way, nothing to do with yoga. They should give it another name, like boga, not yoga. Yoga means connecting to God. That's the definition of the word. Why don't you look up the definition? Let's see what they say, the definition of yoga. I know we've looked this up before, but the real definition of yoga is connecting to God. The real Sanskrit meaning of the word is connecting to Krishna. And well, that's what's being said here in this verse today. It says that uh, devotees are so affectionate toward the personality of Godhead that although he does not appear before those who practice yoga in a secluded place, even for many, many births, however, he agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotional service without material yoga practice. There it is, without material yoga practice. In other words, devotional service to the Lord is so easy that even a householder can see the Supreme Personality God as one of the members of his household, as his son, as Kartaki experienced. He was a householder, although a yogi, but he had the incarnation of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Kapila Muni, as his son. Devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. The Lord says, therefore, that he lives neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of a yogi, but he lives where his pure devotees are always chanting and glorifying him. The Supreme Personality God is known as Bhakta Vatsala. That means he's very, very, very affectionate to his devotees. He is never described as Jnani Vatsala or Yoga Vatsala. He is always described as Bhakta Vatsala because he is more inclined toward his devotees than toward other transcendentalists. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that only a devotee can understand him, meaning Krishna, as he is. Bhaktya mam abhijananti. One can understand me only by devotional service, not otherwise. That understanding alone is real because although jnanis, mental speculators, can realize only the effulgence or the bodily luster of the Supreme Personality Godhead. The yogis, the real yogis, not the bogus yogis, realize, oh, wait a minute. Let me read that again. That understanding alone, okay, Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanant. One can understand me only by devotional service, not otherwise. That understanding alone is real because although jnanis, mental speculators, can realize only the effulgence of the bodily luster of the Supreme Personality Godhead, and yogis can realize only the partial representation of the Supreme Personality Godhead, a bhakta or devotee not only realizes him, meaning Krishna, as he is, but also associates with the personality of Godhead face to face. Very, very big statement. So there's a world of difference between the jnanis who are very, let's say, proficient at studying the Vedas and the mental speculators. They can at most understand the Brahmajyoti aspect of the Lord, the light that's emanating from the body of the Lord, but not the Lord himself in his splendorous transcendental form. And they can actually engage in reciprocal service with the Lord. So that's a special thing that only devotees, and that's why it says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. One can understand me only by devotional service, not otherwise. So people do other things, hatha yoga and jnana yoga, this yoga and that yoga, but only by bhakti yoga can one actually have a personal relationship with Krishna. Okay. And that's why this purport begins. Devotees are so affectionate toward the personality of Godhead that although he does not appear before those who practice yoga in a secluded place, even for many, many births, he agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotional service without material yoga practice. Okay, so you don't have to do all the asanas and the different yoga practices. Simply have to become a genuine devotee of the Lord. That is, serving the Lord with love and devotion by chanting his holy names, by cooking food for the pleasure of the Lord, offering to him, and then your Lord offers it back as prasadam. So if you do those two things, chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra at least 16 rounds a day, and offer nice vegetarian foodstuff to Krishna and partake of it, you are on the fast track to see Krishna, even in a home, even in a modest home where, or wherever you may live, and to always be in the association of the Lord. First of all, chanting the name of Krishna is the same as associating with Krishna, because Krishna and his name are non-different. That's point one. Point two is that when a person offers food to the Lord offers it back as his prasadam. Now you're partaking of the Lord's by accepting prasadam and eating it. So you become Krishnized by chanting Hare Krishna and eating Krishna's prasadam or Mahaprasadam. Krishnized means that your body it becomes purified, and your mind especially becomes purified, and you can always remember Krishna 24 hours a day. Now you're Krishnized, you see. So it's different than material things. Like, for example, uh, a farmer will catch his will tie up his uh, cow and brand it. You know, puts a brand, burns the brand on the skin of the cow. You know, to identify it as belonging to this particular uh, farmer. But that identification is material; it's not spiritual. Whereas if we always are chanting Hare Krishna, we are branded not with hot iron, but with the holy name in our minds and in our lips all day long. So that people say, "Oh, he's a Hare Krishna." I say, if you dress like a devotee, you talk like a devotee, and you preach like a devotee, so that's the brand. That person is a devotee of Krishna. So you see, when you just do silent meditation, like Mayavadis do, they're not branded as devotees. They're branded as speculators. They think that performing silent meditation, they will uh, make some kind of, let's say, benefit for them. They'll be able to uh, make their body more fit and stronger. They'll they'll live longer, whatever. They have these type of goals by doing yoga. But that's not what yoga is about. Yoga means connecting to Krishna. So if you do materialistic yoga, it's not yoga. It's boga. It's has nothing to do with yoga. Yoga is connecting to the Supreme Personality Godhead through chanting, through the tongue. You chant with the tongue and you eat with let's say with the tongue. So therefore, in those two ways, chanting Hare Krishna and eating only prasada, you come directly in contact with Krishna. And this is what devotees do. They chant Hare Krishna and they have very nice prasada. That's our yoga. That's the way we connect with the Lord. Okay. So it says devotional service is such a powerful transcendental method that it surpasses all other methods of transcendental realization. The Lord says, therefore, that he lives neither in Vaikuntha nor in the heart of a yogi, but he lives where his pure devotees are always chanting and glorifying him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhaktavatsala. Bhaktavatsala means that he is very, they, he gives special attention to the devotee who's always chanting Hare Krishna. Vatsala means that he's always connected with Krishna. He is never described as Jnani Vatsala or Yoga Vatsala. In other words, he's always described as Bhakta Vatsala because he is more inclined toward his devotees than toward other transcendentalists. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that only a devotee can understand him, meaning Krishna, as he is. Bhaktya mam abhijananti. One can understand me only by devotional service, not otherwise. So not by Hatha yoga, not by Raja yoga, not by this yoga or that yoga, only by devotional service, Bhakti yoga. That understanding, meaning Bhakti yoga, alone is real because although the others, the jnanis, the mental speculators, can realize only the effulgence or the bodily luster of the Supreme Personality Godhead, and yogis can realize only the partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a bhakta, or genuine devotee, not only realizes him as he is, but also associates with the personality of Godhead face to face. Well, that's why we have the deities. You can see the Lord every day face to face. If you go to like a Baha'i temple, you walk in there and there's nothing. It's called a temple, so you're expecting to see deities. There are no deities. If you walk into a mosque, there are no deities. And if you go to bogus, let's say, meditation schools, there's no deities. Why? Because they are not meditating on the form of the Lord. They're meditating on their own mental speculation. Right? So when someone does silent meditation, what do they think about? They can think about anything, or they can think about nothing. So, I mean, you can ask people who meditate silently. Have you ever done that?
I do Maharaj sometimes for my for breath, like just to calm down your breath. But in those cases, you're just focused on the breath, nothing else.
What if you have bad breath?
What not that you're breathing. Make sure because you're not doing shallow breathing, but like doing deep breathing. And that is just to calm you down in the moment.
Yes. Well, that's not really yoga.
Yeah, that's not yoga. I agree.
It's just a breathing exercise.
Breathing.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, that's what most people do, is the breathing exercises. It might give them some type of material, bodily, let's say, good feeling, but it's not connected to Krishna at all. So it's not spiritual at all. Okay, so we'll go on to the next verse, which is verse 31, right?
30.
Huh?
30.
Verse 30. Oh, I'm sorry. So this verse says, Kardama Muni said, "You, my dear Lord, who are always increasing the honor of your devotees, have descended in my home just to fulfill your word and disseminate the process of real knowledge." So let's read the purport to understand what this verse says. When the Lord appeared before Kardama Muni after his mature yoga practice, he, meaning Krishna, promised that he would become Kardama's son. Now that's real yoga, when God becomes your son. He descended as the son of Kardama Muni in order to fulfill that promise. Another purpose of his appearance is Chikir Sur Bhagavan Gyanam, to distribute knowledge. Therefore, he is called Bhaktanam Manavardana, he who increases the honor of his devotee. By distributing Sankhya Yoga, he would increase the honor of the devotees. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not dry mental speculation. I'm talking about real Sankhya, not the false Sankhya. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. Okay, there it is. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. It's not the false Sankhya that's taught in schools and in yoga, let's say, yoga schools. Yeah. Sankhya philosophy is not mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service. Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality Godhead and engage in devotional service. Okay, so the key word there is surrender. There was this one person, he was a revolutionist, Indian, let's say, his name was Surrender Not. And the British called him Surrender Not. He doesn't surrender to the British. Right? So, but surrender, if you're going to do yoga, you have to surrender to God. But they don't say that in schools, that you have to surrender. In fact, they say this has nothing to do with spirituality. So that means you're not surrendering to God by doing those exercises, breathing exercises, physical body stretches, and things like that. You're just doing it for your own personal materialistic goal to make your body more nimble, to maybe try and increase your life expectancy, to there's all related to the body, not with the soul. Okay, so that is the sorry state of affairs today, that you take a exalted word like yoga and give it a false definition, and then people think they're actually doing yoga by the different breathing exercises and calisthenic exercises for the purpose of making the body more stronger, more nimble, to engage in better sex. That has nothing to do with yoga.
Here it says, Maharaj, the Oxford Dictionary.
Yes.
Yoga. The definition of yoga is a Hindu philosophy that teaches how to control the mind and body, a system of exercises for the body and breathing, used by people who want to relax or become fitter.
There it is. Complete false definition of yoga. The word yoga means to connect to God, how to connect to God. So you don't connect to God simply by making your body stronger, etc., or calming down your stress, whatever. You make your body, you practice yoga for the purpose of coming closer to God.
And right next to I wrote, Maharaj, the word yoga comes from Sanskrit, literally means union. In
Yes.
Hinduism, yoga is a set of mental and physical exercises that aim to produce spiritual enlightenment. But in Western cultures, yoga is often practiced independently to promote mental or bodily well-being. This practice includes breathing techniques, meditation, and specific bodily postures.
Yeah, but the beginning phrases there are incomplete also, right? They don't mention connecting to Krishna. So you see, the dictionary doesn't always give you the correct definition. Sometimes many definitions are correct, but there's a lot of other definitions that are not correct. That's one of them. All right, so it says here, he who increases the honor of his devotees, okay, by distributing Sankhya, he, meaning Kapila Muni, would increase the honor of the devotee. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not dry mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service? Really nice statement. Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service. Well, there you go. You have that word surrender. Nobody wants to surrender. Everybody wants to be independent, you know. So that's the key word. You have to actually decide to surrender yourself to Krishna. And how do you surrender yourself? It's by chanting Hare Krishna, eating only prasadam, going on Sankirtan, preaching the gospel of Krishna consciousness, so forth. That means you're surrendered to the Lord. Surrendering to the Lord is not silent meditation. When Krishna appeared, he didn't remain silent. Right? He was speaking to the devotees and explaining Krishna consciousness. So that silent meditation is basically a mental concoction of the so-called yogis. It has nothing to do with real yoga. Real yoga is connecting to Krishna, and you connect to Krishna with your tongue by eating prasadam and by chanting Hare Krishna. Now you're connected to Krishna. Eating prasadam is not a mundane thing. It's a spiritual thing, and it's transcendental when it's meant to please the Lord. If it's meant only to get your body stronger, then it's a material thing. If it's the way that eating prasadam becomes spiritual is by always remembering Krishna as you're eating. In fact, there has been examples of devotees who, every time they take a morsel of food in their mouth, they chant Hare Krishna. So that you go to a program of these type of very advanced devotees, you're hearing the Maha Mantra all the time, even though they're eating. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so he who increases the honor of his devotees. Okay. How do you increase the honor of the devotees? By distributing Sankhya yoga. The Sankhya yoga means real Sankhya. There's false Sankhya and real Sankhya. The real Sankhya is devotional service. By distributing Sankhya, he, meaning Kapila Muni, would increase the honor of the devotees. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not dry mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service? So that is a rhetoricative statement. You don't. It actually. It's not meant to be explained. It's self-explicative. Yeah. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service? Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service. Well, this word surrender scares people. They think, oh, if I surrender, then I'll be a slave. Well, yeah, if you surrender to nonsense people, you'll be a slave. But if you surrender to Krishna, you'll be liberated. And you'll be able to help many other people also. So this word surrender usually is considered to be pejorative or something that's not good. But actually, surrendering to Krishna is the best thing. But most people, they want to be independent. Independent. But actually, they become slaves by becoming independent of God. Why? Because now they're not surrendered to Krishna, they're surrendered to their own mental concoctions. And therefore, they're not really liberated. They've become more entangled in the material world. Okay. So it's very interesting here. Prabhupada says that the devotee is called Bhaktanam Manavardhanam, he who increases the honor of his devotees. By distributing Sankhya, he, meaning Krishna, would increase the honor of the devotees. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not meant for dry mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service? Okay, so that's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it. The answer is implied in the question. Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service. So whenever you use the word surrender to people, they say, oh, that's bad. I don't want to surrender to anyone. I want to be independent. Yeah, one time this person called me up and he said that he was interested in becoming a devotee. Oh, I said, that's good. He said, what do I have to do? I said, well, you just have to follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. And he said, what are they? And I told him. And he said, well, no, I'm not interested in this. I said, then why did you call? Said, well, I wanted to see what you guys are doing, but I want to do it on my own. In other words, he doesn't want to surrender. He wants to do whatever his speculative mind thinks. And then he hung up. He called up to find out how he could become Krishna conscious. And when I explained it to him, he hung up because he doesn't want to surrender. So surrender is a word that scares people, actually, because they think that they'll be a slave. Yeah, if you surrender to a nonsense person, yeah, you'll become a slave. But if you surrender to Krishna, you become liberated. There's different, let's say, goals. If the goal is to surrender to a nonsense person, you'll become a slave. If the goal is to surrender to Krishna, you become a liberated soul. So it depends who you surrender to. Nowadays, people surrender to marijuana, they surrender to drugs, they surrender to sex, they surrender to mean people and so forth. But if you surrender to Krishna, there's nothing mean, there's nothing intoxicant about it. You become a genuine devotee with clear consciousness and and being engaged in transcendental activities. Okay, are there any questions? I think we have used up our time. Okay, we'll just read the next verse, just to get an idea of what we're going to do here tomorrow. My dear Lord, although you have no material form, you have your own innumerable forms. That means that he doesn't have a material form, right? They truly are your transcendental forms, which are pleasing to your devotees. Now, this is very hard for people to understand because Krishna will appear as if he's an ordinary child. And people get confused. They think, oh, he's only an ordinary child. He's not something supernatural. But that ordinary child manifests supernatural activities. He lifts Govardhan Parvat or Govardhan Hill on his pinky. And that's definitely supernatural. And he swallows a fire that was threatening to kill all his devotees. That's supernatural. And he can be in many different places at the same time. That's supernatural. Right? So you have to read the pastimes of the Lord to understand that he's not an ordinary person, although he appears like an ordinary person. When he's a baby, you don't think that he has the supernatural powers of of a transcendental person, but yet he does. He manifests it. There was this one demon who was hiding uh, uh, behind the cart in order to kill baby Krishna. And with a little kick of his toe, the cart collapsed and killed the demon. Now the demon could not imagine that he was going to trying to kill Krishna. And he thought he could do it easily because he's appearing as a baby. But with a little, a kick of Krishna's baby foot, he killed the big demon. So these are supernatural activities. Now, some people say, oh, this is all just stories. You have your stories, I have my stories. They're all stories. No, that's the problem. People think that Shastra are what you would call stories, and everybody has their own stories. But no, Shastra is not just stories. Shastra is bona fide knowledge of who God is and how to please God. So it depends how we approach the Vedic knowledge. If we approach it with the idea it's just another set of stories, then we'll never make any spiritual advancement. But if we approach the Vedas as the absolute truth about the personality of Godhead, then we make spiritual advancement. So they study. I mean, they have courses in college on Bhagavad Gita. Do any of those people that take those courses become devotees? Very, very few. And usually they might be a devotee for some time and then they give up. Because devotional service is not meant for passing a test on some aspects of devotional service. It's for surrendering. So this word surrender scares people. They don't want to surrender to anyone. They want to be independent. But how can you be independent when you're subject to birth, death, old age, disease? It's an illusion. They don't think clearly. As long as we're subject to birth, death, old age, disease, there's no question of becoming independent. But people don't think clearly. They're confused. They think, well, I'll just figure everything out myself. What are you going to figure out? How can you figure out freeing yourself from death by yourself? It's not possible. But it is possible if you become a devotee of the Lord. And people say, no, that's all, that's all stories. It's not real. It's not real. It's just, what do do you call,
Mythology.
mythology. It's a myth. A myth means something that is not real, but it's a nice story.
And they also think it's a path of the week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
path of the week. Yeah. Yeah. But actually, it's the path of the strong. Denying the path is the path of the weak. Because they don't have to perform any tapasya at all. They just talk and imagine things. Okay, so yeah, like my daughter has, when she was in college, uh, she started a group where they would read Bhagavad Gita, and after reading something, they would go around in a circle, and everybody had a chance to speculate and say what they thought it meant. And they never got it. They never really able to understand the verses that we're talking about because there was everybody's opinion, not any shastric evidence back up their opinion. So these type of things are going on. You have so many different yoga schools and yoga, let's say, classes uh, and spiritual classes, things like that. Most of them are bogus because they're speculative. To get the uh, actual uh, understanding of things, you have to come in contact with genuine devotees who simply repeat the shastric evidences of who Krishna is. Then you make spiritual advancement. By following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, you cannot avoid them. Uh, you cannot avoid uh, those rules and regulations. Otherwise, you won't make any spiritual advancement. And it all depends on surrendering to a bona fide guru or gurus who help you understand the real purport of the Shastras. And you can read something, like let's say there's no purports, and you just read the verses. And then you try and think, well, what does this mean exactly? You're going to speculate. You'll never really understand what it actually means. Why? Well, you might understand something, but it'll be hit or miss. And it won't be bona fide. Okay, so any questions?
Can you explain? Oh, Hare Krishna.
That's okay.
Can you explain the actual meaning of yoga?
Yoga means connecting to Krishna, to God. Yeah. It doesn't mean breathing exercises. It doesn't mean different ways of twisting your body. It means connecting to God or Krishna. And that's the real definition of yoga. But if you look up the normal definition of yoga, it doesn't mention that. And obviously, if you connect to God, then you have solved the problem of birth, death, old age, and disease. If you think it's only physical exercises, and you're not going to be free from the cycle of birth, death, old age, you might feel good sometime, but still you're subjected to these horrible things: old age, disease, and death. If you become a devotee, yeah, you'll get old. You'll also die, but you go back to Godhead, whereas you have a spiritual body. Now, some people say, well, that sounds like mythology. It doesn't sound like something real. So, how can we differentiate the, let's say, beliefs of devotees from what's called mythology? Well, uh, we have a whole history of acharyas very exceptional, spiritually advanced devotees who all validate the existence of Krishna and validate the knowledge that Krishna has given. You know, so you have people like Sankaracharya, who seems to be a Mayavadi, but actually is a great devotee. Right? He also explained that yes, Krishna is actually transcendental; he's not an ordained person. So you have these great philosophers and devotees throughout history. So that is one criterion to know that you're not studying something that's mythological. And these devotees have performed great, let's say, accomplishments in society. So when you look at someone like uh, Madhavendra Puri, you look at someone uh, like Prabhupada. Look what Prabhupada did. He comes to the United States with $7 in his pocket, and in a few years, he expands Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thousands of people are following, his and reading his books and following him. So that's not an ordinary thing. That shows the potency of a pure devotee. So those are actually proofs that Krishna consciousness is bona fide. Now, someone could say, "Oh, wait a minute. Well, there are people. They're movie stars, and like hundreds and thousands of people go to see their movies. Yeah, but can they control their mind and their senses? Do they develop actual love for Krishna? No. So they're not actually great people. And whatever they're doing is a temporary thing. It's not going to be everlasting. But what Prabhupada is teaching, a pure devotional service, is everlasting and ever beneficial to all kinds of people. It's not just meant for just one kind of person or one group of people. So Prabhupada is not preaching just to Hindus, he's preaching to everyone because this knowledge is universal. The knowledge of Krishna consciousness is universal. It's not meant for Hindus. And so Prabhupada never said, I only teach Hindus, I don't teach anybody else. There are people like that. There are people like that who only teach, like, some people only teach their children. They won't teach anybody else. But Prabhupada came and he didn't make those type of groups. He saw everyone as potential devotee of Krishna, and he preached to everyone. All these things are indications that Prabhupada is a transcendental devotee of the Lord. He doesn't make separations of people. This one is American, this one is Hindu. No. He saw everybody as potentially being a devotee, and he preached to them to become devotees. And many people became devotees from all different backgrounds. So now you have what's called a universal movement. It's not prejudicial in any way. Now, that means that whether a devotee is Chinese and born in China and doesn't even speak English, but there are books in Chinese language all about Krishna. And now they're practicing Krishna consciousness in the same way that people in the United States are practicing Krishna consciousness. They've imbibed the culture of Krishna consciousness. That's the genius of Srila Prabhupada. He's able to spread this movement all over the world. And he went to almost every part of the world to preach. So he is a transcendentalist. He's not a person who is, let's say, limited to one type of people or one type of group. He is giving the message of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Why? Because he knows that everyone has the capacity to understand Krishna consciousness if it's spoken correctly. So the Bhagavad Gita has been around for many, many years, hundreds and thousands of years. But no one who read the Bhagavad Gita before Prabhupada actually became a devotee. They became, let's say, uh, philosophers and things like that, but they didn't actually become devotees. It's only when Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is that people started to become devotees. That right there speaks for itself. Like, for example, there were many speculators that were reading Bhagavad Gita, but they didn't actually surrender to Krishna. They just read Bhagavad Gita as just another mundane philosophy. So whenever they would talk, they would say, well, the Bhagavad Gita says this, and then the other book says this, and then this other book says that. So you can never get a straight answer from those people because they would give you references from many different cultures and many different points of view. Just like when you get a book about philosophers, well, so and so said this, and this other person said that, and you read the book of different philosophers, and in the end, you don't really have a clear idea of what the truth is. You'll say, well, so and so says this, and so and so says that, but you don't actually have what is the absolute truth. So you'll study Kant and Gottlieb and this one and that one, but you'll never really get a straight answer. What is the absolute truth? Whereas in Krishna consciousness, if a devotee is only repeating what the original Shastra says, and Shastra are the words of Krishna, then you understand what the truth is. It's unequivocal. You can't speculate anymore. You can try and speculate, but you will not come up with the right understanding. So that's what Shastra is. It's the absolute truth. But the absolute truth can be misunderstood when you don't have a guru. Just like Hitler misunderstood the swastika. He takes something spiritual and gives a different definition for it. So that's what happens when you don't have a guru. But when you have a bona fide guru, then you understand what the swastika is all about. So the trouble with people today, they all want to independently understand things and not take any help from bona fide gurus. Okay, if not, no questions, then we'll stop there. Always associate with bona fide devotees so you can hear bona fide things.
Hare Krishna, I think there may be a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hey, Bo.
That's fine. Maharaj, recently my father's brother expired. So he donated his complete body to a medical institute, Maharaj. So, I was thinking whether that's a correct step or not, because normally organs they donate, but he donated his full body for research and all. As per our scriptures, is that correct step or what is it, Maharaj? So,
Well, it's one way of saying I'm not this body. they're going to experiment on his dead body. No, that's breaking the sanctity of the person. In other words, basically what he's saying by doing that is he's saying that I'm not actually a devotee. I believe in medical science or something like that, and basically it is just what do you call it? A way of destroying the sanctity of his existence, because you're going to chop up that body and eventually ends up in the toilets or in the thrown away as just bones. So we are not this body, okay, but if a person is sanctified in this lifetime by spending their time and energy in Krishna consciousness, then their body is not left in the streets so the crows can eat it. It's protected. So the body of saintly people, they bury it. They don't even burn it. They bury it, and they protect it with salt, so that no insects or worms or anything can eat it. So does that mean they're bodily, oriented? Not really, but the body of a saintly person is not destroyed. It's not burned, because their whole life was dedicated to Krishna consciousness. So it means their body has been transformed into something spiritual. So the way people deal with bodies, dead bodies, is different. The devotees, when a pure devotee dies, they don't burn the devotee body, because the body is no longer a material thing. It's a spiritual thing, because it was engaged always in the service of the Lord. So what happens to a body when someone dies? Well, it can become dust. It can become stool. Some people will just leave the body in an open place so that the animals can eat it, and then they defecate what they've eaten, so that the body becomes stool. And some people burn the body, of course, and a lot of people bury the body. So there's different ways people deal with the body when someone dies. The burning of the body, well, it's usually devotees, advanced devotees, they don't burn the bodies. They preserve the body with salt and mausoleum or some kind of protective building that they build. But obviously, the bodies of sinful people are treated differently. They're burned, excuse me, they're burned, or they're left in the streets so it can be eaten by the animals, or they're desecrated. Like when in Italy, Mussolini, when people decided to get rid of Mussolini and his wife, they hung them both upside down and tortured them till they died. And then they threw them in the streets so that the animals could come and eat them. There was so much disdain for Mussolini. So there's different ways of getting rid of the dead body, but a saintly person who spent most of his life in spreading Krishna consciousness, well, their body and eating only prasadam, well, their body is considered sacred, so they treat it differently than how the Italians dealt with the body of Mussolini. Because the body of a saintly person who's always been Krishna conscious is preserved in salt and buried, so that with the salt, no worms or bugs or anything can touch it. Okay, so you can do a whole survey of how people deal with the dead body. There are people that will keep the dead body in their home. You know, uh, they keep their grandfather on a sofa in the home. And other people, burn the body, and other people bury the body. One time I was downtown Seattle, and I was walking, and I was walking past this store that sells sells what do you call this, things that people buy to protect their body when they're dead. Anyway, there was an old couple. They were looking in the window of the store, and they were trying to choose, what kind of what's the name of that thing? It's well, what kind of thing they want to be put into, and those boxes.
Casket.
Yeah, what kind of casket they were going to buy for their death, and they were pointing at this one or that one and looking at the prices, things like that. And some of those things are really expensive. It can be thousands of dollars, right? So they have a lot of padding and a lot and special type of wood or whatever. So they were trying to choose what kind of casket they would have when they die. That, of course, is complete nonsense. And it's an attempt to protect the body even after death. Where there are other people who purposely leave the body in an open area so that the birds and the scavengers can eat it, right? So there's many different ways. You could write a whole book on the different ways people deal with dead bodies. Of course, the Hindus, for most of the part, they burn the body, and they have special gods from some special places where you take the body and it's burned. And then some people just will throw the body into the Ganges and just let it float and go away. So if you bathe in the Ganges, sometimes you see dead bodies coming by. Have you ever seen that?
Not seen that.
I've seen that.
I know it.
I've actually seen that. Sometimes you get caught on the bank of the river. It's a little shock, it's a little bit of a shock. You see this dead body there. But it gets caught by trees or other things, and then it just stays there until it disintegrates, where the animals eat it. You see everything in India. It's a very interesting place because and what does it prove? When you go to India, you see how ephemeral life is. Just trying to cross a street in India is extremely dangerous. And you feel that at any moment you could die because buses are driving past really fast when you're trying to cross the street, and sometimes you go to places that are very dangerous. Let's say you're walking up, you're walking up a mountain to see some holy place. You could easily slip and kill yourself. So one thing you learn when you go to India is how ephemeral life is, how easily you could die there. just crossing the street in India is a very dangerous thing. And in the way, cars and buses are coming very close to you as you're trying to cross the street. So that's a good thing about India. It shows you how easy it is to die. So you have to be very careful. And people do die. And even the Indians die. You know how many people die of car accidents in India? A huge number. Uh, so India is an interesting place. The one thing I learned when I went to India, it's very easy to die. They have to be really careful there. Haribol.
Any other? Okay, Prabhu, any other comments or questions?
No, Prabhu.
Okay. We'll again regroup
Haribol.
night at temple.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.